Well, hey y'all. Uh, I just ate my supper. I had what do you call those things? Um, Brussels sprouts. Yeah, I had Brussels sprouts with butter melted on them, salt and pepper. That was my supper, and a glass of milk. Well, this is what I have been doing today. Oh, I started it yesterday. I was just in the mood to do a little bit of embroidery, a small project. So I dug this out. This is an old kit, embroidery kit, that had never been opened, never used. And it's probably, it's old, and this cloth is old. I'm thinking it maybe from 1970s. But it was in with some other stuff that was real old that I got from, they gave me at that free garage sale a good while back, earlier this year, earlier last year. Yeah, yeah, I think it was. It's been quite a while back now since there was that free garage sale. But anyway, see, here's the picture. And this is what I've got done so far. It's going to be pretty hanging on the wall. Yeah, that's going to be pretty. Yeah, yeah. I've got quite a bit of it done just in the past 2 days. And what I did is I started out using the yarn that they had provided in the kit. On some of this you might not can tell, but this right in here's where I started, and it's fuzzy. I didn't like it because that yarn, whatever it was, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it was wool or acrylic or what it was, but it was kind of fuzzy, stretchy, and it just, you can't have that when you embroider. It just wasn't cutting the mustard. So I got my newer cotton embroidery thread and did all the rest of this with my own newer thread. And I threw that old stuff away. But yeah, this canvas is pretty old. I can tell it's pretty old. It'll rip kind of easy. That's how old it is. I mean, but I'm going to get it worked up and put it in a frame, a 5x7 frame, and just leave it there indefinitely till it turns to dust, I guess, or till it gets burned up in the 7-year tribulation, whichever and whatever. But it'll be pretty in the meantime to look at hanging on the wall. I love embroidery and I like looking at it. It blesses my soul to look at certain things like embroidery. It gives me just this feeling, a peaceful feeling, a calming feeling. It's like looking at a homemade quilt and touching it and handling the homemade quilt. And there's something about that homemade stuff. It's so much better than factory made. And I grew up with that homemade stuff. Yeah. was influenced by my granny and my dad. And I was influenced a little bit by some of the styles in the 1970s, like, because I loved country stuff anyway. Anything that has to do with the country life, nature, and that type of thing. So I just love looking at pictures of Holly Hobby and just things like that. Just old fashioned things and old timey things. Because we always had some antiques in our house, odds and ends of old things that had belonged to my granny, things that she'd had since she was a young woman. That's been ages ago. I remember on the back porch, see, when she died, she was living in a small, it was a small 2-bedroom, 1-bath house. It was a lease house that had been built in the 1940s and leased out there in Imperial, Texas, here, just north of here in Imperial. That's my early childhood home. Well, my grandmother and my daddy grew up. He grew up in that house there in Imperial, and my step grandpa died from cancer when my daddy was still real young, kind of young. He's before he was grown up, and so it was just him and Granny for so many years. But he grew up in that town, in that house, that very house that we lived in. Later on, we lived in it, and uh, that's my dad and his mom, Granny Freeman. Now, Freeman was her second husband's name, but that's what we always called her. That's what we always knew her as, Granny Freeman. Her maiden name was Popno. And I found out that her parents were from France, or one of them was. Her daddy was from France, and his name was Popino, and he married a woman who was what you call that there. Anyway, she married my grandpa, and his last name was Joyner. And they got divorced. They had dad, and then later on they got divorced. And she, I have no idea what the story was or what either one of them did while they was married or after they was married or anything. I have no clue. All I know is at some time or other she met and married her second husband. His name was Freeman. And they lived in that little lease house, which was brand new at that time. It was pretty new at that time. There in Imperial, Texas. That's the house that Dad grew up in. Well, Lonnie Freeman, he didn't live for very many years. He died from cancer when Dad was still a boy. So it was just Dad and Granny Freeman. And of course, he went to school there with my mama. Everybody in that town knew each other. It's a tiny town. There's not even a stoplight in that town. There never has been. There still ain't no stoplight in that little town. It's kind of like something you'd see on the Twilight Zone. You know, it's different. But they knew each other all their lives, going to school together, and they got married. But anyway, that's a little of that history. But the thing is, after Granny died, and Dad he inherited her house, and had it moved. I don't know, 350 miles east, close to the Austin area in central Texas. And we lived in that house for many, many years. But she had, of course, there was some antique stuff that in that house that had belonged to her. And no telling who all it belonged to. It might have been some stuff from her parents that she had managed to save that was in that house. I don't know who all those antiques had come from or nothing. And I don't know what's become of them since my dad passed away. And I was told that my oldest brother got his pick of my dad's stuff, and I don't know what in the world became of any of it. But I didn't get anything. I don't think I got anything for a keepsake that was my dad's. I have original family photos that I had took out of his photo album before he went to the nursing home because I didn't know what would become of them. And I knew if I didn't take them, I'd never see them again. And I also knew that nobody else in the family cared much about them. I'm the only one who really cares about family photos and ancestors. I don't know why nobody else in the family seems to care. I just don't understand that. I do not understand it. I do care. Because those are the people we descended from. They're part of us. And I find that interesting. But anyway, yeah, I'm getting my embroidery fix with this project. I'm excited. I can't wait to see it in a frame and put it in a frame and hang it on the wall. I can't wait. Can't wait to have this done and accomplished. It'll give the house a more homey look. I like a homey look. just plain old country, homey look. Just plain and simple. Kind of like them old farmhouses. Like the old house that my grandparents lived in that Grandpa built. Him and my older uncles worked together and built their house when they moved to Imperial. That was when they first moved to Imperial. My mama was around 5 years old. That was right after her daddy died and Granny got remarried. And well, if my mom was around 5, then my uncles, they weren't much older than she was. So I don't know who else helped Grandpa build, but I'm sure there was somebody there he knew. But he got that house built. And my mom lived in that house from the time she was 5 years old until she turned 18 and married my dad. And then they lived on the other side of town, right next to a cotton field, right on the edge of the town there. And in that house, that prefab house that my dad had ordered, that house kit he had ordered from Lubbock. And it had the parts had been brought down here to Imperial from Lubbock and assembled. And my uncles helped my dad assemble that house. Because my uncles grew up knowing Dad. They all knew each other from childhood, going to school together. They loved my dad. My dad loved them. I miss them all. But anyway, that's Imperial. And we can just get in a truck and we can go north of here. About, I think it's about 30 miles. And there's Imperial, my early childhood home. And that little bitty plot of land on Moody Street where Granny and Grandpa lived, that house is gone. It's all gone. But the only thing that remains is that iron pipe, that rusty old iron pipe fence that Grandpa had welded together and put around where the house was. That's still there. I'm glad it's still there. As a reminder, nobody else there, I don't think, remembers it, is old enough to remember it or care. But yeah, I remember the house being there with that iron pipe fence around it. And I remember certain times of the year when sunflowers would come up in the front yard of that house. And they'd just be glommed up there in front of the house. and nobody would cut them because Granny didn't want them cut. They'd just grow wild. And I'd wander through them. You know how little kids are. I'd wander through them like I was going through a forest. And of course, I remember those sunflower stalks were real kind of itchy, scratchy, prickly like, real unpleasant on your skin and had a funny smell. But I remember that. And I remember the sidewalk that went from the front gate straight to the front door. And there was a step. Well, I think it was just one step, I think. I think it was. But anyway, I remember that sidewalk went up to the front door. I remember that. Have you ever seen forever in somebody's eyes? You know what I mean? I don't know how to explain it. You're looking at somebody's eyes and you see forever. Maybe it's because you know you're going to love that person forever or something. What do y'all think? What do you think it means when you see forever in somebody's eyes? Them dogs are laying over there snoozing. They're just laid over there like two hog dogs. That's what they are. They're hog dogs. poor, poor Lily. Mila beat her up again today. She don't really hurt her. She just barely nips her, but she makes so much noise. It just and she's so dramatic, you know. She makes it look like she's just killing her. She don't really hurt her. But gosh, she just goes nuts. Just as silly as can be. She's silly. Animals are funny. I enjoy them. I enjoy being around them and communicating with them. As little as we were able to communicate with animals. But you look into their eyes and they look back into your eyes. They're aware of you, and you're aware of them, and they know that you're aware of them because they know things. And it's so funny to watch some of their behaviors. They're just funny. I'm so tired. I did a lot today. I was up and down, up and down, up and down, doing this and that all day. And now I am really tired. And I need to get in there and take a shower because I've just put clean sheets on the bed and I'm filthy. I'm so tired. When I get in that bed, I'm just going to melt into that bed. Just melt into it. Yeah, I am about to fall asleep. I hate to go to bed dirty. But what I could do is just see, I got the bed made up and I got the blankets put on the bed. Well, what I can do is just leave the bed made up and just leave one blanket on the bed and sleep on top of that blanket and then use a couple of other blankets to cover up with. That way, where the sheets are will stay clean. And then tomorrow I can take my shower. I'll have more energy tomorrow. Because tonight I am just, I'm ready to just go melt into that mattress and go to sleep. Well, I guess I'll say good night. And I'll talk to y'all later. Good night.